Welcome back to This is Thailand. Tonight's story is a little different from the ones you're used to hearing on this channel. There's no bar girl on Walking Street. There's no wide-eyed fool throwing his savings at a go-go dancer he met on his second night in the country. Tonight, it's a quieter kind of man and a quieter kind of loss. His name is Wolfgang, 55 years old from just outside Kassel in central Germany. For 30 years, he worked as a lineman. High-voltage power lines. The kind of job where one careless morning is your last. He's not a dreamer. He's the opposite of a dreamer. He's a man who checks his work twice, who trusts numbers over feelings, who came to Thailand not chasing a fantasy, but running the math on a pension that no longer stretched far enough to live on at home. He thought he'd done his homework. He thought he'd accounted for everything. And here's the thing about a man like Wolfgang. When someone that careful, that cautious, that's suspicious of anything easy ends up in trouble anyway, you have to ask yourself how it happened. Because if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone watching this. What he found in Thailand wasn't what he was warned about. That's what makes this one stay with you. Here's his story, in his own words. I am not an interesting man. I want to say that first, so you are not disappointed later. Some of the stories on this channel, the men have done wild things. Casinos, 20-year-old girls, bars on Soy Bukhao. Me, I have never done a wild thing in my life. That is maybe part of the problem, but I am ahead of myself. 30 years I worked the lines. Overhead high voltage, the big pylons, the transmission towers you see marching across the fields when you take the train. Freezing rain in February, 40 degrees in August with the sun coming off the steel. You learn very fast in that job that the world does not care about you. The current does not care if you have children. It does not care if you are tired. You check the line. You check the grounding. You check again. The men who cut corners, who say, it is fine. We do it quick. I have been to their funerals. So I became a certain kind of man, careful, quiet. My colleagues used to joke that I read the safety manual like other men read the football results. My wife understood this about me. Ingrid. We were married 31 years. She talked, I listened, and that was a good arrangement for us both. She was the warm one. I was the one who fixed the boiler and did the tax forms and worried about the winter tires in October. Between us, we made one complete person, you could say. And then on a Tuesday, an ordinary Tuesday, nothing special about it, I was going to fix the gutter that weekend. She fell down in the kitchen. Heart. The doctor said it was very fast, that she did not suffer. People say this to you like it is a comfort. Maybe it is. I don't know. 1 minute there is a person, 31 years of a person, and then there is a kitchen floor and a paramedic saying words to you that do not go into your brain. I am not going to talk very much about that part. It is not why you are watching. I will only say that the house got very quiet, and it stayed quiet. And I did not know what to do with a quiet like that. Here is the part where one become, I think, a typical man of my situation. Because grief, for me, I could not feel it directly. It was too big. So instead, I did what I always do. I did arithmetic. The funeral first. In Germany, a funeral is not cheap. Between the arrangements and the stone and all of it, there went a good piece of what we had put aside. Then the months after, when a man on his own does not cook properly and buys too much takeaway and does not notice the heating bill because who is checking? When the dust settled, I had maybe 14,000 euro left. And the pension, this is the number the whole story turns on, so listen. After 30 years on the lines, my rente came to 1,410 euro a month. Call it 1,535 American dollars for those of you who count in that. That is what 30 years of climbing towers in the ice is worth at the end. 1,410 euro. Now, in Germany, that is nothing. That is a cold flat and a pullover indoors in January because you are watching the gas meter. My rent alone ate half of it. I sat at the kitchen table one night. The same kitchen, yes, with a pencil and the bank statements. And I added it all up the way I would add up a load calculation. And the number did not hold. It just did not hold. I would be eating into the savings every single month. And in a few years, there would be no savings. And then what? Then a very old man in a cold room waiting for the end. I want to be honest, because that is the only reason to tell a story like this. It was not only the money. A man can be poor and still have a reason to get up. I did not have a reason. Every room in that flat had her in it, her chair, her side of the bed that I still did not sleep on. The math and the loneliness, they were the same problem in a way. Both of them said, you cannot stay here. So at night when I could not sleep, I started reading on the internet. Retirement forums. Where can a man live on a small pension? And you go down these holes. Portugal, Spain, they were still too dear. Philippines. Then Thailand kept coming up again and again. And there was one man on this forum, a German, a retired fellow living in Chiang Mai, and every month he posted his costs. Not vague talk, actual numbers. Rent, so much. Food, so much. Electric, so much, down to the baht. His whole month laid out in a table like an engineer would do it. I trusted that man immediately. Not because of his opinions, because he showed his work. That is the only kind of person I trust. The one who shows the work. I read his tables for maybe 3 weeks, and I did my own calculation next to his, and this time, in his column, in his country. The number held. It held with room to spare. It was not a dream. I want to be clear about that. Other men come here for a dream. I came here for a spreadsheet. I booked a one-way flight to Chiang Mai. Not Pattaya. Even a man like me, buried in his own quiet, even I had heard the warnings about Pattaya. Chiang Mai. Quiet, they said. Sensible. I thought I was being sensible. That is the whole trouble with this story, really. Every single step of it, I thought I was being sensible. The flight came down into Chiang Mai at night, and the first thing that hit me when they opened the doors was the air. In Germany, the air is a thing you do not notice. Here it was like walking into a warm, wet towel. My shirt was stuck to my back before I even found my bag. And the smell, I cannot describe it properly. Diesel and something sweet, flowers maybe, and cooking, and underneath all of it, something green and rotting in a way that was not unpleasant. Just alive. Everything smelled alive. I had booked 3 nights in a small guest house near the old city to start. And that first night, I did not sleep at all. Not from excitement, from the noise. Motorbikes going past until 2, 3 in the morning, a whole pack of them sometimes. And then just when it went quiet, a rooster started up somewhere, very close, and then the temple. There is a wat near where I was staying, and at dawn you hear the monks, the bells, the chanting coming over a loudspeaker across the rooftops. In Germany, someone would have called the police. Here it is just the morning. I lay there on top of the sheet, sweating, listening to a country that did not stop for 1 minute. And I thought, what have you done, Wolfgang? You are 55 years old, and you have flown to the other side of the world on the advice of a man on the internet whose real name you do not even know. But then the morning came properly, and I went out, and I started doing the thing I know how to do. I started counting. That is the part one can tell you honestly worked. The forum man, his tables, they were correct. I found a room to rent in Sanathan. You know Sanathan? It is not the tourist part. No foreign bars, no Irish pubs showing the football. Just ordinary Thai streets, little shop houses, a fresh market, power lines overhead so tangled and heavy, I used to stand and stare at them like other men look at art. 30 years I did that work, and these lines here, my God. A rat's nest. A beautiful, terrifying rat's nest. I do not know how the whole city does not burn down. Anyway, the room was 6,500 baht a month. Call it €170. Clean tiled floor, a fan and a little aircon unit, a fridge. In Germany, €170 would rent you a parking space maybe. Here it was a home, and I did what I always do. I bought a notebook, a little school exercise book from the 7-Eleven, 12 baht. And every single day I wrote down what I spent. Every baht. Breakfast at the market, a plate of cow pad, 40 baht, a coffee, my water. In the evening I would sit with the notebook and add the column and compare it to the forum man's numbers. And for the first time in a very long time, the arithmetic came out on my side. I want you to understand what that felt like, because it is the whole reason I stayed. For a year in Germany, every time I did the math, it ended the same way, with me losing. the number going down, and here I would add up my week and there was money left over. Actual money sitting there, not needed. I would look at it in the notebook and feel something almost like safety, like I had solved the problem, like I had done the responsible thing at last, and Ingrid, if she was watching, would not have to worry about her stupid husband. I fell into a routine very fast. That is a lineman thing, I think. We like the same thing every day, because the day the routine breaks is usually the day someone gets hurt. Up early, before the heat, walk to the market. A bowl of jock, the rice porridge, or moo ping, the little grilled pork sticks with sticky rice. 20 baht from the same lady every morning until she started to know my face and would have it ready. Then coffee. Then the long, slow middle of the day when it is too hot to do anything, and I would sit under the fan and read. And then in the evening when it cooled, I would walk again. For maybe 3-4 weeks, that was enough. It really was. I told myself, this is it, Wolfgang. This is the retirement. You have done it. Cheap, quiet, warm, safe. What more does a man want? And that is where I have to be honest with you, because this is the part the notebook could not fix. The evenings got long. The math worked, but the evenings did not work. I would finish my walk and come back to the room, and there was the fan turning, and the light, and the sound of some Thai family 2 doors down, all eating together, laughing, the grandmother's voice, the kids, the clatter of it, and me on the edge of the bed with my exercise book and my column of numbers. In Germany, at least, the loneliness had a reason. She had died, the house was empty, of course it was quiet. Here I had chosen it. I had flown 10,000 kilometers to sit alone in a different room, a hotter room, same emptiness, just with better weather and cheaper rent. Nobody warns you about that one. The forums, they tell you the price of everything. Rent, food, electric, visa. Nobody has a column in the spreadsheet for how you will feel at 8 o'clock at night when you realize you have not said a real sentence to another human being in 4 days. Ordering cow pad does not count. Thank you, delicious. That does not count. I am not a man who makes friends easily. I never was. Ingrid was the one who did that for us. She collected people, and I stood behind her and nodded. Without her, I did not know how to begin. There were other Farang around, older Germans and English and some Americans. I would see them in the coffee places on Nimmen with their laptops, or the older ones with their Chang beers going a bit red in the face by afternoon, and a part of me wanted to go and sit down and say something. And a bigger part of me did not know what I would even say, so I did not. So I kept to my routine. The market, the coffee, the walk. And there was one place I had started going, a little family restaurant near my room, nothing special, 6 tables, plastic chairs, a picture of the king on the wall, and a spirit house out front with the marigolds and the little red Fanta they leave for the spirits. Good food, cheap, clean. Som tam that took the roof off my mouth the first time. I went back because the food was good and because it was close. But if I am honest with you, and I am trying to be honest, that's the whole point of sitting here, I also went back because of the woman at the till, the one who ran the front. Not young, about my age or near it. She never made a fuss of me, never did the big smile they do for the tourists. She just started to know my order, and after 4 days of speaking to no one, a person who knows your order, that is not a small thing. That is not a small thing at all. Her name was Nok, but I am getting ahead of myself again. It started with her correcting my Thai. That is the honest truth of it. I had been ordering the same thing for a week, some tam, but I would say it wrong. I would say it in a way that made the young girl who ran food to the tables laugh behind her hand. And one evening, the woman at the till, Nok, she leaned over and said it slowly for me. Sam tam. The proper way, the tone going up at the end. I tried it. I got it wrong. She said it again. I got it wrong again, and this time she laughed too, but not the way the young one laughed. Not at me. More like with me. Like we were both in on the joke of this big stiff German who could not make his mouth do the sounds. That was it. That was the whole thing that started it. A woman laughing with me instead of at me. over a plate of papaya salad. After a year of silence, you have no idea what that does to a person. So I started staying longer. I would finish eating and then order a chai and drink it slowly, and we would talk a little bit when the place was quiet. Her English was not perfect, but it was much better than my Thai, which is not saying much. And I learned her slowly, the way you learn anything worth learning, in pieces. She was 49, 4 years younger than me, a widow. Her husband had died 6 years before, a motorbike, which out here is how half the men seem to go. She had one daughter, grown, working down in Bangkok in a hotel. The restaurant was not even hers. She managed it for her cousin who owned it, and she took a wage and a room upstairs. She worked 6 days, sometimes 7, up at 5 for the market, closed the till at 10 at night. I understood that kind of life. That is a lineman's kind of life. You do the work because the work must be done, and nobody asks if you are tired. And here's the thing I want the young men watching this to understand, because I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, here we go, old fool. The woman at the till gave him a smile, and he lost his mind. And I understand why you think that, but it was not like that. She was not a bar girl. There was no bar. There was no walking street, no neon, no mama-san, no game being run that I could see. She was a tired widow running a restaurant for her cousin, and I was a tired widower eating there every night. And we were just two people who both knew what it was to have the other side of the bed be empty. I have gone over this 1,000 times since. Was I already fooling myself? Maybe. But I will tell you, even now, even knowing how it ends, I do not think she was pretending in the beginning. I do not. Some things you cannot fake, and one of them is the look on a woman's face when she talks about a husband dead 6 years and still not really gone. I know that look. I have it myself. We talked about them, is what I am saying, about the dead ones. She told me about her husband, how he sang badly and loudly on the motorbike. And I told her about Ingrid, which I had not told anybody, not properly, not since the funeral. I sat in that little restaurant with the picture of the king on the wall and the fan pushing the hot air around and the smell of chilies being pounded in the back. And I told a Thai woman I barely knew about my wife dying on the kitchen floor. And she did not say the stupid things people say. She just listened. And then she put more sticky rice on my plate without asking, which is a thing out here. Feeding someone, it means something. Weeks went by like this, a month more. I was not counting anymore, which for me was the strange part. My little notebook, my exercise book from the 7-Eleven, I still wrote in it, but I noticed the food column was going up because I was eating there every night and buying beers and staying late. And I looked at it one evening and thought, well, this is more than the forum man spends, but I am not lonely anymore, so worth it. That was my first mistake in the arithmetic, and I did not even see it as arithmetic. I had found a line item the spreadsheet did not have, and I was glad to pay it. Then one evening she mentioned, not to me really, just out loud while she was closing the till, that her daughter in Bangkok was short for something. The school for her own little boy, Knock's grandson, this was, a little one down in Bangkok she showed me photos of on her phone, a serious little face just like hers. The school fees were due and the daughter's wage at the hotel did not stretch. 8,000 baht. She said it the way you say a thing that is just a fact of your life, a weight you carry, not asking anybody to lift it. 8,000 baht, around 200 euro. And I want to be very clear about this part, because this is where it truly begins, and I have thought hard about how to tell it honest. She did not ask me, I want you to hear that. She did not turn to me and say, Wolfgang, give me money. She said it to the air, to the till, the way you would mention the rain. And I was the one who said, let me help with that. Me, I offered, I reached for it. Because what was 200 euro to me against what she had given me? A month of not being alone. A woman who fed me sticky rice and listened to me talk about my dead wife. 200 euro for a child's school. In Germany, you cannot buy a decent pair of work boots for that. And I had the little cushion still, the 13,000 and change, and the pension came every month whether I sat alone or not. It was nothing. It felt like nothing. It felt, if I am honest, good. It felt like being a man who was useful to somebody again. She did the Y when I gave it to her, hands together, the little bow. And there were, I thought, real tears, just at the edges. She said her daughter would be so grateful, and I felt 10 feet tall. I know how this sounds, I know. A woman mentions money near a lonely farang, and the money appears, and every one of you watching is shouting at your screen right now. Shout away. You are right. But you are also not sitting where I was sitting, with an empty flat in Germany waiting for you and a woman here who made the evenings stop being so long. I did not think I had started anything. I thought I had done a kindness one time. That is the trap, I think. It never looks like a door. It just looks like a kindness. The first time. After the school fees, something shifted. Not with a bang. Slowly, the way the season changes here. You do not notice until one day the air is different. Knox started treating me like more than a customer. She would keep a table for me even when the place was busy. She would cook me things that were not on the menu. Gang from her own village. The food she ate herself in the back. And one Sunday, her one day off, she asked would I like to come with her to the temple. To make merit. Tamboon, they call it. So I went. And I want to tell you about that morning, because it mattered to me more than the school money ever did. We went to a wat outside the city, not a tourist one, a local one. Early, when it was still cool, the mist still sitting in the rice fields. There were monks in their orange robes and old women kneeling on the tile floor, and Knox showed me how to hold the little lotus flower and the incense sticks, 3 of them, and how to bring my hands up to my forehead. I did not understand one word of the chanting, but there was something in it. The smell of the incense, the gold of the Buddha catching the light, the low sound of all those voices together. For a man who had buried his wife in a cold German church with an organ and everybody in black, this was something else. This was warm. I knelt there next to Knock, a lineman from Kassel who believed in nothing except torque settings and grounding resistance. And I felt for a moment not alone in the universe. That is worth more than money, I still say that, even now. And then her family started to become my family. That is the part one did not see for what it was. Her daughter came up from Bangkok with the little grandson, and they were shy with me and polite. The boy did the Y and called me something in Thai that Knox said meant grandfather roughly, and I will not pretend that did not get me right in the chest. I never had children. Ingrid and I, it did not happen for us, and we made our peace with it. But you do not stop wondering. And here was a little serious-faced boy calling me grandfather in a language I could not speak. You give a lonely man a family and he will pay anything to keep it. He will not even feel the paying. That is the thing I understand now that I would have laughed at then. The next one was the mother, Knox's mother, down in the village in Isan, near Udon, diabetes. She had to go into the hospital for a stretch, and there were bills. The government hospital is cheap but not free, and there were medicines after, the ongoing kind. 25,000 baht, all told. Around 650 euro. This time Knock did tell me, properly. She sat across from me with her phone showing me photos of the old lady in the hospital bed with the drip in her arm. And she cried. And she said she did not know what to do because her wage did not cover it and the daughter had the child. And what am I going to do? Say no. Sit there with 14,000 euro in the bank, a pension coming every month, and tell a crying woman her mother cannot have her medicine? For 600 euro? I would have to be a certain kind of man to say no to that, and I am not that kind of man. I paid it. Of course I paid it. Here is what I want to say about that, and I have thought about it a great deal. That bill was probably real. I believe to this day that old woman was really sick, that the diabetes was real, the hospital real. That is what makes this whole thing so hard to explain to people back home. They want it to be a con. A clean con, a wicked woman, a fake story. It was not clean. The mother was really sick. The grandson really called me grandfather. The temple really moved me. It was all real. That is what nobody warns you about. It is worse when it is real, because there is nothing to catch, nothing to point at and say, there, that is the lie. And somewhere in here, I cannot even tell you the exact day, and that is the point. It stopped being one-time things and became a monthly thing. It just sort of arranged itself. I started giving Knock money every month for the family. Not a huge amount at first. 10,000 baht maybe, around 260 euro. For the mother's medicine, and a bit for the daughter, and the boy's school. It felt reasonable. It felt like what a man does for his family. And by then, in my head, they were my family. I want to be straight with you about my notebook, because I told you I'm a man who counts. I still had it, the little exercise book, and one kept writing in it. But I noticed, and this is the part one I am ashamed of, more than any of the money. I noticed that one week I did not write down a transfer. I had sent Knock money for something, the boy's shoes, I think, and when I sat down that night with the notebook, I just did not put it in. And I knew why. Because if I put every one of these in the column and added them up at the end of the month, I would have to look at the total, and I did not want to look at the total. Think about that. 30 years I checked every connection twice because the number mattered, because the number was the difference between going home and not going home. And here I was, deliberately not writing the number down. A man does not do that by accident. A man does that because some part of him already knows. The little things I told myself. She works so hard, the poor woman. The mother is genuinely sick. It is so cheap here. This money would be nothing in Germany. Family is different in this country. They support each other. It is beautiful, really. Not like back home where we put the old people in a home and visit twice a year. All of it true. Every rationalization I made was built on something true. That is why they work so well on me. There was one evening, I think about this one. Another German, older fellow, I had started nodding to him at a coffee place on Nimmen. He asked me friendly how I was finding it. Was I settled? And I told him about Knock, the restaurant, and he got a look on his face. Just a small look, and he said, careful, just, Isayan family is it? And changed the subject. That was all. Isayan family is it? 4 words and a look. I should have asked him what he meant. I should have bought the man a chaying and asked him to tell me everything he knew. I did not. I decided he was a bitter old expat, one of the sour ones you find nursing a Leo at 2 in the afternoon with nothing good to say about anybody. I decided that so I would not have to think about the look on his face, and I went back to the restaurant that night, and Knock had kept my table. The roof came up in the rainy season. That is important because you cannot understand the roof without understanding the rain. If you have not been here in the wet season, I cannot fully explain it to you. It does not rain the way it rains in Germany. It comes down like the sky has split open, warm and gray and endless. The streets turn to rivers in 20 minutes. The drains give up, the motorbikes pull under the bridges and just wait. It goes for days. And I was sitting dry in my little room in Sanathem, listening to it hammer the roof when Knox showed me the photos of her parents' house down in the village near Udon. The roof of that house was rusted through in places. You could see daylight, she said, and when the rain came, the old people put out pots and buckets and moved the beds around to stay dry. Her father, 70-something, her mother, the diabetic one, sleeping in a house with the rain coming through onto them. She showed me the photos on her phone, and she was not even crying this time. That is the thing. She just showed me, quiet, and then put the phone away and went back to work. She did not ask. She never asked. That was always the shape of it, and I could not stop thinking about it. 2 old people, the rain coming through the roof. I have spent my whole life around weather and structures and the danger of things not built properly. It ate at me. So I said I would help fix the roof. And it turned out fixing the roof meant, more or less, rebuilding a good part of the house, because you cannot put a good roof on rotten walls. The number that came back was 90,000 baht, about 2,500 euro. Now, I want you to stop and think about where my money was at this point, because I have not lost track of it, even if back then I was pretending to. I had come with about 14,000 euro. The school fees, the mother's hospital, the monthly money that had crept up. I had been here the better part of a year, and I was down to maybe 9,000-10,000. And here was a single ask for 2,500, a quarter of everything I had left in the world, in one go. I did the thing I should have done from the beginning. I went to see for myself. I took the bus down to Udon. Long ride, the flat green country going by, the buffalo in the fields, the little roadside places selling grilled chicken and some tam and bags of sticky rice. And I want to be clear, because this matters. The house was real. The poverty was real. It was not a show put on for the Farang. That house was exactly as bad as the photos. Worse, maybe. The old father sat on the step and pressed his hands together to me, this dignified old man, and the mother cooked for me on a single gas ring, the best she had, and there was a hole in the roof of the sleeping room you could put your arm through. The neighbors came to look at the German. Everybody was kind. Everybody fed me. I sat on a plastic mat and ate larb and drank Hong Thong whiskey with the old man and could not speak a word to him, and it was one of the better evenings of my life. How do you say no to that? Tell me. You have come all that way. You have eaten their food. The old man has given you his chair. You are going to sit there and say, no, I will not fix your roof. Let the rain come in on you? I could not. I am not built to. 30 years I made things safe for strangers I never met. And here was a family, my family as I thought of it by then, sleeping in the wet. I paid the $90,000, and here is what I did not let myself add up, sitting there on the plastic mat feeling like a good man. By that point, my monthly money to knock had climbed. It was 15,000 baht a month now, about €415, out of a pension of 1,410. Nearly half of everything I had coming in every month was going to knock in the family, and I was topping it up out of the savings for the extras. And now the savings had €2,500 less in them for the roof. I was eating instant noodles in my room in Chiang Mai. That is the truth, and it is almost funny. I had moved to Thailand because my pension did not stretch in Germany, and now I was eating mama noodles from the 7-Eleven 3 nights a week so that a family 400 kilometers away could eat well and sleep dry. And I told myself that was love. I told myself that was what a family man does. Maybe some of it even was. Then the roof got finished and something changed. Small at first. The messages online got shorter. Before, Knock would send me things through the day. Little things, photos, a heart, ask if I had eaten. You know the Thai way, Jin Kao Reo Yang. Have you eaten yet? They say it like we say hello. And after the roof money landed, those got fewer. Slower to come. When I went to the restaurant, she was busy. Always busy now. The cousin needed this and that. I would sit at my table and she would be pleasant, but she would not sit with me the way she used to. I told myself she was tired. She was always tired, it was true. I told myself the money had nothing to do with it. But there was a part of me, the old lineman part, the part that reads a meter and does not care what you want the meter to say. That part had started to notice a pattern I did not like. The warmth had been highest when the need was highest. And now the big need was met, and the warmth was cooling, and those two lines on the graph. When I let myself see them side by side, they matched a little too well. I pushed it down. Of course I did. But then I had that conversation, the one at the coffee place on Nimmen, the German again, the one who had said, "Asean family, is it?" He asked how it was going, and this time I do not know why, maybe because I was worried, I told him the real number. I told him what I was sending every month in the roof and the hospital. Said it out loud, all of it together, for the first time. And the man did not lecture me. He just went a bit quiet, and he looked at his coffee, and then he said, gentle, not unkind. And what happens to the family, do you think, when the money stops? I did not have an answer. I sat there in the coffee shop with the aircon going, and the sound of the motorbikes outside, and I did not have an answer, because I had never once let myself ask the question. That was the night I went home and got out the notebook, the real one, and I started finally to add it all up. The notebook did not lie to me. It could not. That is the whole point of a notebook. I sat on my bed in Sanatham that night with the fan going and the little exercise book and my German bank statements pulled up on the phone, and I did the thing I had been avoiding for the better part of a year. I put every number in one column, all of it. The school fees at the start, the mother's hospital, the monthly money, tracing how it went from 10,000 to 12 to 15, the roof, the little extras, the boys' shoes, the phone, the this and the that I had told myself did not count. I added it up the way I would add up a fault report, slow, twice. No feeling in it, just the numbers. And the numbers said this. I had arrived with about €14,000 and a pension of 1,410 a month. In a little under a year, I had put something close to €5,000 of my savings into Nock and her family, on top of nearly half of every pension payment. My savings, the cushion, the thing that stood between me and a cold room at the end, it was under €5,000 now. Under 5,000. I had come with 14. I sat and looked at that number for a long time. And here's the strange thing. The thing I did not expect. I was not angry. I kept waiting for the anger, and it did not come. What came was something worse. Shame. Because there was nobody to be angry at. That is what I had to sit with. I could not point at Nock and say, "You did this to me, you wicked woman," because she never once asked. She showed me a roof and I paid for it. She showed me a sick mother and I paid for it. Every single transfer I had reached for it myself. My hand, my phone, my choice. 30 years I built my whole self around being the man who checks the number, and I had sat here for a year with my eyes closed on purpose. I did not sleep. In the morning I went and did the thing I dreaded. I went to the restaurant before it was busy, and I asked Nock to sit with me. And I told her the truth. I said, "Nock, the money is nearly gone. I cannot do this anymore. Not the monthly, not the extras, none of it. I can pay for myself, and that is all that is left." And here is where, if this were one of the other stories on this channel, she would scream, or cry, or beg, or fly into a rage. She did none of those things. She got very quiet. She looked down at the table, and she did the Y, the little bow, and she said very soft that she understood, that I had been very kind to her family, very kind, and that was all. No scene, no tears, just that Thai quiet, the kreng jai, the not wanting anybody to lose face, hers or mine. And she got up and went back to the till. I want to tell you that quiet was worse than any screaming would have been, because in the screaming there is still something. A fight is still a connection. This was just a door closing very gently, so gently you could almost pretend it was not closing at all. And it closed. Over the next few weeks, it just closed. The messages online stopped, not with a bang. They just thinned out to nothing. Gin Kao Ru Yang, have you eaten? Gone. When I came in to eat, she was pleasant, professional, the way she was with any customer. The special dishes from the back stopped coming. The kept table stopped being kept. And the family, the daughter, the little grandson who called me grandfather. I never saw them again, not once. The grandfather thing, it turned out, had an expiry date, and the date was the day the money ran out. There was one more. I have to tell you this one because it is the one that told me everything. About 3 weeks after I said I had to stop, 3 weeks after I had told this woman I was nearly broke, a message came. Polite, warm even, warmer than she had been in weeks. The father, the old man, the one who had given me his chair and poured me the hong thong. He was not well. There was a small thing, a medical thing, only 8,000 baht if I could possibly help, just this one last time. 8,000 baht, the same number near enough that I had started with a year before for the grandson's school. The story had come all the way around the circle, and I sat there looking at it, and I understood finally completely what the German at the coffee shop had been trying to tell me. What happens to the family when the money stops? The family, it turned out, was a thing that happened around the money. When the money stopped, the family stopped and only started up again, just for a moment when there was hope of it starting once more. I did not reply to that message. That is the one thing in this whole story I'm a little bit proud of. I did not send the 8,000, and I did not send an angry letter either. I just put the phone down. And I will still not call her a monster. I have to say that, even now, even after that last message. Because I still believe, that some of it was real. I think a lonely widow was fond of a lonely widower. And I also think a poor woman with a sick mother and a leaking roof and a hungry grandson did what poor people the world over do, which is lean on the resource that presents itself. Both of those were true at the same time. She loved me a little and she used me a lot. And I have made my peace with not knowing the exact proportions because you cannot measure that. There is no meter for it. Believe me, I looked. I stayed on another few weeks in Sanitham, eating alone again, back where I started. The same market, the same fan, the same long empty evenings. Except now with 5,000 euro instead of 14, and the knowledge sitting in my chest that I had done this to myself with my own hand and my own open heart. And I knew I could not stay. Not in that town, not walking past that restaurant every day. So I did the last piece of arithmetic. And it was the saddest sum of all. The last sum was this. I had maybe 5,000 euro left, a pension that did not stretch in Germany, and a heart that could not stay in Chiang Mai. And when I put those things in a column, the answer that came out was go home. Not because home was good, because home was cheaper than staying somewhere that had her fingerprints on every street corner. So I went home, back to Germany, back near Kassel where I started. I found a small flat. Cold, of course, they are all cold. And the pension is the same 1,410 euro it always was, the same number that sent me running to the other side of the world, and it still does not stretch. And now I have 5,000 in the bank instead of 14. So in the pure arithmetic, the arithmetic I was so proud of, the thing I trusted more than my own heart, I am worse off than the day I left. I solved nothing. I spent 9,000 euro in a year of my life to end up in a colder version of exactly where I began. If you are keeping score, that is the tally. 9,000 euro, 1 year, and a certain amount of a man's dignity, though that one does not convert cleanly into any currency. But I have to tell you something, and it is the part my brother does not understand, the part nobody back home understands. I am not sitting here bitter. I keep waiting for the bitterness, the same way I waited for the anger that night with the notebook, and it still has not come, because here is what the column does not show. For most of that year, I was not alone. For most of that year, somebody kept a table for me. A little boy called me grandfather. I knelt in a temple in the mist and felt, for a few minutes, like I was part of the world again, instead of standing outside it looking in. I talked about Ingrid to somebody who listened. You cannot put those in the notebook. There is no line for them. And if you ask me, would you pay 9,000 euro to not be alone for a year, after the year I had before it? I am not so sure the answer is no. That is the thing that unsettles me. I am not sure the answer is no. I do not think knock was evil. I have said it all through this, and I will say it one more time, because I need you to hear it properly. She was a poor woman with a sick mother and a leaking roof and a grandson to feed. And I was a lonely man with a pension and no one to spend it on, and we found each other, and both of those facts used each other. I think she was fond of me. I also think that when the money stopped, the fondness had nowhere to stand, because in her life there is no room for fondness that does not also feed somebody. That is not wickedness. That is poverty. They look similar from the outside, but they are not the same thing, and I will not let anyone tell me they are. So what is the lesson? People always want the lesson, the neat one, the one you can write on a card. Here is mine, and it is not neat. I thought the danger was the money. I am a numbers man, so I watched the numbers. I made sure the rent was cheap and the pension covered it, and the foreman man's tables held up. I did the whole thing like a safety inspection. And the money is where I got hurt, yes. But the money was never the real thing. The real thing was that I was a man with a hole in him the exact shape of a wife, and I came to a country full of people who, for reasons kind and unkind, were very good at filling that shape for a price. You can budget for rent, you can budget for the visa, the flights, the hospital insurance they tell you to get. Nobody can budget for how much you will pay to not eat dinner alone. That number is not on any spreadsheet, and it is bigger than you think. And it does not care how careful you are. I was the most careful man I know. 30 years, and I never once got hurt on the line. And this got me anyway, because I was checking the wrong hazard the whole time. So if you are out there watching this, and you are on your own, and the pension does not stretch, and you are thinking Thailand is the answer, I am not going to tell you don't come. Who am I to tell anyone that? But do the other sum first. Not the rent, the other one. Ask yourself how much of this is about the sunshine and how much of it is about the empty chair back home. Because if it is the chair, and for me it was the chair, it was always the chair, then no country is cheap enough to fix that. You will just pay for it in a warmer place, in a currency you did not know you were spending. That is all I have. Thank you for listening to an old lineman go on. I hope it saves one of you the 9,000. Or at least, I hope it makes you count the right thing. That's Wolfgang. And that's the part of these stories we don't talk about enough here. On This is Thailand. We tell a lot of tales on this channel about men who got taken. The bar girl with the boyfriend back in the village. The business partner who owned everything on paper. The bank account emptied overnight. Those stories are easy in a way. There's a villain. You can watch them, shake your head, and tell yourself you'd never be that stupid. Wolfgang's story is harder because there's no villain in it. There's just a good, careful, grieving man, a woman doing what her hard life taught her to do, and a gap between two worlds that swallowed 9,000 euro and never once looked like a crime. Nobody lied to him. That's what should stay with you. The most dangerous situations out here often aren't the scams. They're the real things. Real affection, real family, real need. Meeting a real loneliness that's willing to pay anything to make itself stop hurting for a while. If you're watching this and you saw a bit of yourself in Wolfgang, then hear the man's own advice. Do the other some. Be honest about what's actually driving you across the world. Support given from strength is a fine thing. Support given to fill a hole in yourself will empty you out, and no budget on earth accounts for it. Thailand isn't the danger. What you're carrying when you get here is the danger. Take care of yourselves out there. Look after the ones who are on their own, back home and abroad. A kept table is worth more than most of us admit. We'll see you next time, here on This is Thailand.